You ever have one of those weeks where you check the mailbox expecting some coupon for dog food, and instead you find out a bunch of strangers are plotting to steal your family's legacy right out from under you? Yeah, that happened. Let me back up a sec, because what I'm about to tell you sounds too wild for a sleepy country road, but it's as real as dirt under your nails. See, my family's farm is one of those places that's just always been there, older than the telephone lines, older than the highway, older than just about anything except the river and the rocks. My great-grandfather built that house before Lincoln was even president, and through drought, war, flood, and a lot of bad harvests, we managed to hold on to it. All 47 acres, complete with the original hardwood, stone foundation, and a barn so stubborn it'd probably survive a tornado out of pure spite. For most of my life, our closest neighbors were other old-timers, folks who could spot a bad storm coming by the smell of the air and who waved from tractors, not BMWs. But 3 years ago, all that changed. Some developer with more ambition than taste decided to plop down a brand new subdivision just down the road. You know the type: identical houses, 2-car garages, a community in trance, with fancy rocks and a name like Whispering Pines or something. At first, I figured, fine, live and let live. More traffic, sure, but maybe the local diner would get a boost. But then, 6 months after the last for sale sign came down, the real trouble started. I get this letter from something called a homeowners association, and I swear, I thought it was junk mail at first, maybe meant for one of the new folks. It invited me to a meeting about community standards, and I tossed it in the trash. No big deal, right? Wrong. 2 weeks later, another letter. This one was downright demanding. Apparently, as a resident of the HOA community, I needed to bring my property into compliance with their standards. They listed my farm equipment, my non-conforming barn, and even my vegetable garden as violations. According to them, my way of life was dragging down their property values. I read that thing 3 times. These folks seriously thought my 180-year-old farm, which predated their HOA by about, a century and a half, was somehow under their control. So, I call the number, and I get Linda. Oh, Linda, the kind of woman whose voice alone can curdle milk. She says, "Oh, you're the farmer. We've been meaning to reach out. Like I'm the neighborhood stray dog or something." Then she tells me, straight-faced, that my property is technically within their boundaries now, and I'll have to start following their guidelines. I laugh. I mean, what else could I do? I told her my family's been here since before her great-great-grandparents were even born. She doesn't miss a beat, says she'll send over the CC and RS and a map. Couple days later, big envelope arrives, full of HOA legalese. Paint colors, lawn lengths, no commercial vehicles, my tractor, apparently, and a map that, honest to God, looks like they just took a Sharpie and circled everything within a half-mile of their subdivision, including my land, 3 other farms, and even a chunk of state forest. Lot 47, they called my farm, as if it's just another postage stamp yard on their block. Now, I'm mad. I take myself down to the county courthouse, pull the real plat maps, and it's exactly like I thought. Their community boundaries are total fantasy. I bring all this to my old friend Jim, a lawyer who's been around these parts longer than most folks' family trees. Jim looks it all over and just shakes his head, grinning. He drafts a letter telling them, in legal speak, to knock it off. My land isn't part of their subdivision, and their CC and RS don't mean squat to me. For a minute, I figured that'd be it. That common sense would win out. Oh, how naive I was. Instead, 2 weeks later, I get a letter from some big city law firm talking about enforcement actions and financial penalties. Then, a violation notice shows up. Apparently, I'm in trouble for running a farm on my own property. Not only that, but the HOA is claiming I owe them nearly $900 in fees, and they're slapping a lien on my property. I'll tell you, I stared at that piece of paper and felt my blood turn cold. Because this wasn't just harassment. This was an attempt to steal the farm, plain and simple. See, if they could make that bogus lien stick, they could try to foreclose and force a sale. It was so crazy, it almost worked. Jim, bless him, got angry right along with me. He dug into the courthouse filings, and it turns out the HOA didn't even get the property description right on their lien. They were making it up as they went. That's when Jim gets a glint in his eye and says, "Let's let him dig their own grave a little deeper." His plan? We start gathering every bit of evidence. Let them pile up the fraud until we can take them down for good. Jim's paralegal is a bloodhound for this stuff. Turns out, I wasn't the only target. They'd pulled this scam on every old farm in the area. Two of the farmers, both pushing 80, had already coughed up cash to keep the peace. The HOA even billed the county for mowing state forest they didn't own. 3 of their 5 board members had sketchy HOA records from other states, including Linda, who'd run a similar fraud down in Florida. So we wait. And sure enough, right on schedule, another threatening letter arrives. This one says foreclosure proceedings are starting, and there are interested buyers lined up for my property, who, surprise, were other HOA board members. That's when Jim hits them with the legal equivalent of a wrecking ball. We sue the HOA, all the board members personally, their law firm, and the management company, fraud, harassment, conspiracy, the whole 9 yards. But Jim doesn't stop there. He files complaints with the state attorney general, the state bar, and tips off federal investigators, since using the mail for property fraud is a federal crime. The HOA's lawyers, smelling trouble, send us the usual tough talk, demanding I back down. Jim writes back with a stack of evidence so damning, they'd have to be nuts not to fold. It's like watching dominoes fall in slow motion. New lawyers call, trying to settle. We'll drop the lien, just don't sue us. I tell him that's not even close. We want damages, legal fees, and public apologies, and restitution for the other farmers, too. The state opens an investigation, freezes their accounts, and the local news gets wind. Pretty soon, the whole town's talking. What the investigators found was even uglier. The board had been skimming money off HOA fees, inflating costs, and funneling cash for personal use. More than $75,000 stolen from their own neighbors. Within 2 weeks, federal agents are hauling out boxes of files, and the HOA president, Linda, the queen of the clipboard, is arrested on an old Florida warrant. The other board members turn on each other so fast, it's almost funny. Their law firm gets suspended, the whole HOA is dissolved, and the homeowners left behind realize they've been overcharged for years. Bob, the new lawyer, calls back with a real settlement. 50 grand in damages, every fee covered, public apology in the local paper, and every wronged neighbor gets paid back. The county gets reimbursed for the phony maintenance bills. I use my share to buy another 12 acres, expanding the farm and making sure those crooks never get their hands on it. Funny enough, the subdivision gets a reputation, that HOA fraud place, and property values nosedive. The same folks who wanted to get rid of my eyesore barn can't sell their cookie-cutter houses now. The irony, let me tell you, is downright poetic. 6 months later, a young guy who'd bought into the subdivision before it all hit the fan shows up at my door. He's stuck with a mortgage and a house he can't sell, but he's got decency. He tells me he never knew what was happening, apologizes for the mess, and before you know it, we're swapping stories about farming and growing up country. I invite him to help out come harvest. Maybe that's how communities actually heal. So here I am, the farm's still standing, business better than ever, my family's name safe for another generation. Every now and then, some developer tries to wave money under my nose, but I just smile and wave right back. I'm not going anywhere. And if you ask me about justice, well, this time the good guys won. The crooks got what they deserved, and we even managed to help a few neighbors along the way. But you know, sometimes I wonder, where's the line between protecting your own and looking out for the folks next door? Maybe you've got a story like this, maybe you see it different. Either way, I'd love to hear your take. Was I right to fight back this hard? What would you have done? Drop your thoughts below. Tell me what justice means to you. And if you ever get a letter from an HOA claiming they own your family's legacy, don't just toss it. Stand up, dig in, and let him know they picked the wrong neighbor.